Welcome back to the channel and thanks for joining us for another video. We're going to discuss Paul Scholes' comments, his post-match analysis after the draw against Lyon in the Europa League. As ever, get involved in the chat with your own opinions and we'll try and discuss your comments throughout today's video. First thing I want to know though today is, how did you sleep last night?
Absolutely terrible. 2 hours sleep. I was up at 3:15 in the morning and then I ended up watching Paul Scholes at 4 o'clock. And I mean, absolutely terrible. I managed to have half an hour's kip in the chair about 6:30 this morning. That game last night just blew my mind. So my sleeping pattern is gone.
No night nurse?
No, I'm getting that on the way home.
Yeah,
I need it.
Yeah, maybe. Well, let's hope it's not going to be needed for Sunday away to Newcastle. But I'm going to get stuck into this. He had a lot to say after the game, Paul Scholes, and as you can see on screen, he mentions, I don't think Amorim believes in it. I don't think he likes this team. I think he knows he hasn't got a great footballing team, and I think he wants better. He needs better, and I think that echoes a lot of Manchester United fans' thoughts, so obviously.
Yeah, it does. When listening to Paul Scholes last night, I thought it was one of the most thoughtful, non-dramatic, but straight to the point post-match analysis I've seen from any former Manchester United player for a long, long time. I thought it was excellent. So when you get time, do watch it. He doesn't believe Amorim thinks this team's going to do anything. He doesn't believe in anything what's going on. That's what he's basically saying. Always looking disappointed. That's the way he is. The way he's speaking, he just doesn't believe what he's saying. I
think for me, I think he's totally correct. I mean, the amount of times a camera pans on Amorim during games and you can see that frustration, you know, just there on the touchline, you know, a lot of the times his head's in his hands and he must be a really frustrated manager right now in what he's seeing and the instructions he's trying to get across to the players as well.
Yeah, he's frustrated. He didn't want to be here. We know that. He's been brought in early in November. Didn't want to come till the summer, and you can see why. There's players out there just not good enough for the quality of Manchester United going forward. Scholes talks about winning the league, improving, and it's going to take a few years. Amorim knows that, and he's just looking disappointed, even when he's speaking. So for me, Ruben Amorim's got it all to do in the summer, but he's got it all to do in the next 7 days.
All to do in the next 7 days in the return leg. I've got to be honest though, and I want to try and get a little bit more positivity. I'm sure we're going to touch on Andre Onana at some point in this video, but coming away in a European tie with a draw, needing to get the job done here at Old Trafford, you know, full crowd behind us, but it should be a great atmosphere. I'm still confident that we can get the job done.
No, I'm confident, but I'm depressed because last night we should have won. Yes, before the game, if you'd have said, look, take a draw, I would have took a draw. I thought United could win over there. I didn't think Lyon was a great side. I don't think they were great last night. They had a few moments. That was it. But United really should have won that game. And it's disappointing. But going for the Thursday game, yes, we should win. But football's football. But I'm disappointed. But I'm convinced we're going to win. I'm convinced we're going to win this trophy. But last night just took it all out of me. And I want to be positive, but I just feel deflated and I can't get that up. I mean, speaking to United fans this morning in and around Old Trafford, I mean, it just got me more annoyed, more deflated because of what happened last night. We are good enough. This team isn't good enough for the Premier League going forward. There will be massive changes. Scholes says that. He's adamant about that. He didn't come out with who needs to go, but he did mention a couple of players. There's no conviction in him.
Yeah, he also mentioned towards the end of his post-match analysis, it could take 2 to 3 years to get something a lot better, more enjoyable to watch, a lot more attacking quality in every area of the pitch. Well, my actual question and my thoughts of hearing that is, will Sir Jim Ratcliffe give Ruben Amorim 2 to 3 years to fix this and improve the team?
I think if Paul Scholes is right, we just need something enjoyable to watch. That's the first step. And I think if Ratcliffe does provide players this summer, then it's the first step to watching good, entertaining football. And that is what we've got to see. We've got to we've got to see belief and we've got to see the players. But Ratcliffe has to do it. I mean, he's just utterly gone through this club there, cleaned it. He's destroyed, like, a lot of the fans' conviction there, you know, like with season ticket prices, OAPs, young uns, ticket prices, the lot, penny pinching, everything. I mean, there's staff there to come. I think that's the last thing on the mind now. 200 staff members going. So everything else should be concentrated by Ratcliffe this summer and the Glazers in providing the money and providing it for Amorim, because Amorim, he just doesn't look happy, and Paul Scholes is right in that. But he's got to turn it round, Ratcliffe, by providing and sorting out what goes on the pitch. That's what he was brought here for. Amorim's here. He's here before he should be. But he now knows what he has to do. It's clear as day what he has to do, Ruben Amorim, the players he has to move on. And Ratcliffe can see that. He was there last night with the Glazers. He knows the failings. He has to sort it out.
JB, too many clueless amateurs in this team. 2-1 up with minutes to go, and they're still pushing to score another. Should have just kept the ball and seen the game out. The clown in net, dearie me. One thing I was surprised at last night was taking Harry Maguire off on the 82nd, 83rd minute. It left me a bit baffled that to then bring Lindelof on. I mean, if he's looking at saving his legs, looking at the Newcastle game, obviously it's a tight turnover. I'm just thinking, why on the early 80-odd minute? You know, if you're looking at saving his legs, surely the 65th, 70th minute, if you're looking at saving him, to then bring Lindelof on, you know, late on in the game as a defender when we could possibly come under the pressure, which we ended up doing as well. I just thought Harry could have stayed on there for another 10 minutes easily.
Well, I don't understand why he brought him off with 10 minutes left. What, saving him for the Newcastle game? I don't think so. That was, for me, that was a bad move. And to bring Lindelof on at that stage of the game, who's barely played football and is going at the end of the season, not even match fit, that baffled me. And I think it affected that second goal, to be honest with you, because then you looked at the defending. I don't think Harry Maguire would have been caught out. I don't think Harry Maguire would have let that defence go into that shambles at the end. One thing Harry Maguire is good at that system, and it's fair play to him. He has turned it around. He looked very disappointed coming off. He looked disappointed coming off on Sunday against City, but last night, another baffling substitution.
You know, for me, I do understand, you know, having to manage players' minutes. Like I say, with a tight turnover of games Thursday to Sunday, etc. But really, 10 minutes or so, you know, to bring a player off, just to save 10 minutes in the legs.
Well, you say,
I think Harry Maguire was doing decent, to be fair, up until then. Obviously, the odd one or two moments, you know, pushing into midfield, getting spun, etc. But I think largely throughout the game and his performances this season, he's done well, I think, Maguire. And you're looking at that second goal, the equaliser. You know, I think we're going to touch on Andre Onana shortly, but the actual build-up to that, the actual defending from the midfield, the likes of Casemiro, and then when they're getting into the box, when that ball actually goes into the net, there's 3 United players on the backside in the penalty area.
Yes, I seen that this morning, and that's why I don't think it was the right decision bringing Harry Maguire off. To bring him off and then rest him for Sunday, if that's his idea, then that's a joke, because he should have stayed on and then rested for Sunday and stayed at home and then looked forward to the Thursday game. You've got to remember as well, Harry Maguire's talked about his body not doing well. Look, there's certain big issues there, big issues, not just for Sunday, for next week, Thursday. And Paul Scholes went on about it, went on about Rasmus, went on about Garnacho, and he's turning round, you know. Yes, Onana, we mentioned him last night. We'll mention him again in a bit. But he's talking about Garnacho and Rasmus. They're so erratic, he's saying. They're so poor in possession. There's almost no belief, he says, and no conviction in what they're trying to do. You know, he singled them out. They were the 2 players. He didn't have to go on about Onana. But he's just saying they're so erratic. And you know, I seen that yesterday. Garnacho, again, erratic with his decision-making. Rasmus falling on the floor all the time. So there's no conviction in what Rasmus is doing. Amorim's got to look at it. I think Rasmus and Garnacho, and I think Paul Scholes alluded to it, they've got to be on the bench. They've got to be brought on as impact players. I think that will do him the world of good. That's my opinion.
Fred Grantham has gifted 5 memberships. The 5 people have been gifted their memberships. Give a big thank you to Fred. You're talking about Garnacho, though. I mean, I'm a bit torn in between, to be honest with you, because there's no other player who's the actual outball. I mean, we're playing with 3 at the back, wing backs. Basically, it's 5 defenders. You're looking in the midfield area last night. You've got Casemiro, Ugarte, defensively minded players. No, that's basically near enough 7 defensive-minded players you're starting with, and you're then looking further up the pitch. Who's the outball? There's only ever really Garnacho who's going to ever try and get himself into any space to receive the ball so we can actually relieve some pressure and try and get up the pitch. Is his first touch the best? No, it's not really been over the last few weeks or even this season. He's getting the ball a lot of the time, maybe running into defenders. His close control, again, isn't good enough, but there's only really Garnacho and Bruno Fernandes who gives me some sort of hope in a match that something actually can happen. I don't really get that feeling through anyone else on the pitch.
Well, there's the difference. Bruno, you feel as though something can happen, and it happens. With Garnacho, there's no conviction. There's no belief. It's not happening. It's the same thing game after game with Garnacho. And I believe, and lots of other people have said, put him on the bench, bring him on as an impact player. Yes, we haven't got anyone there at the moment. We know Ahmad's injured and that, but the summer will change it. But you have to look at the team. How is it going to get goals? Even Ruben Amorim, very blasé in his comments after the match yesterday. How do you get more goals? That was one of the questions. How do the players become more clinical? And it was basically aimed at Garnacho and Rasmus and where's the goal scorers? How do you become more clinical? Just put the ball in the net, he said. Just put the ball in the net. Now, I was fuming. It was so blasé, and that's all you have to do, he said. And I was fuming at the situation with the lack of goals and all that. He didn't explain why we weren't getting the goals, what players weren't doing. That's what I wanted to hear. And then you look at, what's his name, Paul Scholes' comments, he's always looking disappointed, especially in the way he's speaking. That summed him up. That's his attitude at the moment. Well,
But he's right, though, isn't it?
No, I'm not saying he's not right.
I know,
I'm not saying he's not right. But a manager of Manchester United, he was too blasé. Okay.
I know, but it's got to probably a point now where he's seen it ever since he's walked through the door. That is the big problem here at United, that we've got players there who just can't put the ball in the back of the net. And it's not as though we've not had opportunities to do that.
I know that.
Players have had opportunities in that penalty area to stick the ball in the back of the net. And he must be so frustrated pulling his hair out.
Well, I'm frustrated.
Watching it week after week. And I can't think of what else he could possibly say other than calling them out with the bare facts of you're shit, you can't do it.
Well, he needed to explain. He needed to explain why they weren't scoring and what he's doing in training and what's going on there and why it's not being replicated on the pitch. We needed to hear and talk about players, okay? We've heard Ruben Amorim talk about ill discipline inside this club. He's dealing with it like with the Rashfords. He's changing things around. There's no more team leaks, everything else like that. So he's quite clear calling this club, this team, the worst team ever in the history of Manchester United. Well, I need to hear some things, right? And it's time for talking. It's time for getting off your chair and just speaking it as it is. I don't even think he's too worried about this Europa League. I think he's concentrating on the summer. He's looking after himself. He's got the excuses. These players aren't good enough, okay? That's how I see it. He has to start explaining. I listened to him.
I've got to be honest.
No, hang on a sec. I heard him talking about Onana. How damaging is that for Onana, letting in them 2 goals last night? He turned round, blasé again. This is what's annoyed me, okay? One player has a mistake. All the team has a mistake. In other words, we've all got to take it because of one player's mistake. I tell you what, them players would have been fuming And I mean fuming last night, especially Xerxes. I felt so sorry for him, right, after scoring, which was a great header, made room for it and put it in the back of the net. Clinical. I felt so sorry for him with the time he's had at United, and he's fought his way back in, okay? But that, for me, was blasé by him. I need him to come out and sort it out and let us know what he's going to do in the summer, and that he's going to attack this game on Thursday and take us to that Europa League final. Yes, he's not speaking proper. He looks disappointed. Well, aren't we all? Aren't we all? We're all annoyed. We're all disappointed. We're watching garbage every other week. Do you know what I mean? It's a little bit better. We can see the system, but the players aren't good enough. And Paul Scholes called Rasmus and Garnacho out. They're so erratic. They're so poor in possession. But they're not the only ones. So for me, he has to now step up, Amorim. He has to make the decision Sunday against Newcastle and prepare for that game on Thursday. And he has to get these players who have no conviction, who have no belief, playing and make sure that Manchester United get in that final. We need that final more than anything. If we lose on Thursday, the next 4 to 5 months are going to be the most painful months any Manchester United fan has faced.
Diving into the chat before I go back onto your comments, Henrik has gifted 5 memberships.
Thank you.
5 people who've been gifted their memberships. Give a big thank you to Henrik. Much appreciated. For me, you're talking about you need to hear him coming out and saying it how it is, basically, on certain players. I don't think that'd do any good for this squad right now. We've always talked about there's a real issue with mentality, confidence within this squad, and we're seeing a real lack of confidence with a lot of these players, in particular in front of goal. For me, did you mention that you think Amorim's looking at this competition a bit blasé, the Europa League? Well, it's going to have a real impact for me going into the summer on the summer transfer budgets of how many players and what sort of quality he will spend. So
Correct.
For me, his eyes should be purely focused on winning this Europa League. For him to come out and actually publicly pick players out and go in hard on him, I don't think that's going to do this squad any favours in terms of getting their hands on that Europa League trophy. I think he's got to measure it and be smart about how he actually does it. For me, make them decisions in the starting 11. He doesn't have to come out publicly for me. And I know you're frustrated. I'm frustrated and a lot of people out there. But he needs to play the smart game. He can't be coming out like he has done in the past. I think it was after the Brighton game, mentioning about, like, you know, this is possibly or maybe the worst Manchester United team in history. He cannot do that again. And I said after that actual game and the following day, I think he's been rung in by maybe the management staff at United after coming out with comments like that. He can personally think that, have conversations behind the scenes with other execs, other staff members, but coming out saying things publicly like that, I don't like that. I mean, we can all discuss it and have an opinion on it as fans, of course we can, but from a manager in Manchester United, I expect better, and I do think he's handled it in the right way, and I do think he's handled press conferences in discussing players and individual performances a lot better since then as well, and I expect him to continue that, because I want us to win that Europa League trophy. I want another trophy in the cabinet, even through our so-called banter era, but the significance of winning that trophy this summer to bring quality players in is absolutely huge for me, because it's desperately needed.
Well, my point was that Amorim needs to come out and explain how he's going to turn these players round and get better performances. And it was all about putting the ball in the back of the net. That's all you have to do, be more clinical. Well, I want him to explain what's going on and what he's going to do as a manager. And that's what we should all demand. Demand an explanation of what he's doing, what's going on, okay? Not to come out and criticise him, okay? Managers shouldn't do that, and any manager what does that, it ends up in the doghouse. I just want him to be more clear on where he's going and what he's doing with these players and what the failings are. Not to be critical in an interview or anything like that, calling players, naming them, singling them out. He just has to put it over. He's going through it as though like he doesn't want to give interviews now, whereas before he was giving interviews 4, 5, 6 times a week sometimes, getting on our nerves. Now he doesn't even want to explain how he's going to turn players' form round, players who really should be playing better.
No, I do agree. So some players in that team should be playing better, and you've got to remember all players do go through bouts of loss of form throughout a season. It's just that a lot of these players are just simply not good enough. The quality isn't there, and I don't. He sees that. Surely he does. You can even go back to Eric Ten Hag and the amount of times, or coaches like Benny McCarthy would come out and say, we'd see like great things on the training pitch day in, day out, and then we'd get to a match day, it all go pear-shaped, and we'd go scratching our head thinking, how's that happened after a week's training that we've done? These are still the same players, the majority of them, and for me, you're looking at Rasmus Højlund and Garnacho, you mentioned before, we've touched on Garnacho, but Højlund, I mean, I just don't know what to think. And the only thing that always comes back into my head with Højlund when I have a discussion about him is, do I genuinely believe that that lad at some point in his career will be able to bag us at 20 minimum goals in the Premier League each season? I very much doubt it. And
the only way you can do that is if this team completely changes and other players are brought in and he's fed the ball, okay, from the wingers, crosses, everything else like that. The system has to change. But at the moment, Rasmus isn't doing it. The system doesn't suit him. But then again, when things aren't going for you, you have to put in that extra work. And he just seems to be falling on the floor at any slight challenge, what goes on. Yeah. He's playing poorly. His choice, he could have scored last night if it had just had the confidence to hold the ball and then just put the ball in the net, but he snatched at it. And that's the way it's going for him. So maybe come the summer, things might change for him. I'm not done with him. I am certainly not done with him, and I'm certainly not done with Garnacho. Okay? The summer will tell you where we're going. Now, Garnacho might be done with us. Who knows what's going on in Garnacho's head? But he's still a young lad. Rasmus is young. But the thing is, a change in the summer, new players coming in, players going out, and here we go. Everything now is on Amorim going into the new season. That for me. I'm not done with them. There's a few players I'm done with. Onana, I'm definitely done with. Definitely done with. He has had enough. He should have been playing better this year. I did say at the start of the season, Onana has a lot of improvement to do. And to be honest with you, like most people out there, he's gone backwards. Completely.
If you take yourself back to just before the season started, we had a long conversation, I think over a course of 2 videos, mentioning Højlund, amongst other players, of what we expected for this season. And one thing we had a discussion about was his hold-up play, that it needs to improve. And we was straight down the line with that. We was honest in our thoughts. And we got a bit of a... Well, we've got a bit of a backlash from some people out there, so to speak. Bit of a kicking off people, not agreeing with us, saying we're too negative, this, that and the other. Do you believe his hold-up play, what we was discussing, has improved this season?
I think it's got worse over the last few weeks. I absolutely do. I think it's got absolutely worse. You want a player up there, especially with the style what we're playing and the way it goes from the back to the middle. You need a player to hold it up. Now, let's get something straight. Xerxes is holding the ball up. He's also getting in the right positions. He's tackling, he's chasing back. He's all vastly improved. I thought he had a good start, Xerxes, and then for whatever reason, it all just went pear-shaped for a while. But he has fought his way back. I've not seen the fight from Rasmus. That's what disappoints me about him. So he has to have a reality check in the summer. He has to have a good conversation with Ruben about how to get him scoring, how to get in the position. But his hold-up play is absolutely atrocious, especially in the last month or so. I've just looked at him and I think it's not even bouncing off him now because it's not even coming to him. He's not even getting in the right position. I used to like but I used to like sort of make excuses. But it seems like excuses. Oh, he's not getting the ball. He's running into the channels and he's not being given the ball. That's still fine today. That's right. But the thing is, he's not doing himself any favours. Any challenge what he goes in for, jumping up, I don't even think he jumps up too much. Yeah. But any time he comes into contact with a centre-half or a defender, he goes on the floor. So there's something seriously wrong and it's got to be rectified. So I'm not done with him. And the same with Garnacho.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. Get up, you're right,
Yeah, fine.
With Hoyland running into channels, and I remember us discussing that, and a lot of people out there is making them runs, is going into the channels. Why do we want our centre forward running into channels? We've got 2 wing backs either side. Yeah, debatable whether they're at the standard right now or if they ever will be in taking this team forward.
I want them in the box.
Why is the only striker we've got in the actual formation running into channels? We need that striker on the in between the 2 edges of that 18-yard box at all times. And if you are dropping off, make sure you hold it to then link up the play, so then the back 3 can push up the pitch, so then you're closer together as a defensive and an attacking unit. And it doesn't seem to be clicking in them areas. But you've also got to look at the number 10s as well. They aren't helping a lot of the time. Bruno Fernandes last night, obviously he got that ball into Xerxes. Great movement from Xerxes, a great ball by Bruno. You know, Rasmus Højlund with that chance in the first half where it come to him in the box. I think it was Dorgu from the left-hand side. And then it's like his studs got over the top of the ball.
Yeah, but let's be positive.
I'm always positive.
Let's be positive.
We'll do him next week on Thursday night against Lyon.
And we will do him.
Right, bang into the chat now. Thanks for the super chat. Trigger Weston, I think it is. Hopefully I've got that right, my mate. He cannot play another game with Stevie Wonder in goal. That's Amorim's responsibility. Use Bayinde. Single-handedly ruined our Champions League last season. Now he's ruining the Europa League.
If Onana is playing badly and people want him dropped, then there's other players what have been playing badly and he's not dropped them. So if he just does drop him, I think there'll be an outcry. I do. I think there'll be an outcry as if to say, well, if you think he's playing badly, we all know that player's playing badly, that player. So in other words, anyone what's playing badly should be dropped. That's the way it goes in football. But Ruben Amorim hasn't dropped these players. So how can he go and drop Onana now at this stage of the season? It's like, for me, it doesn't sit right. He has to go in there, Onana. He has to man up. We've got till the end of the season, okay? We've got a possible cup final. For now, to do that, I think it would be carnage. Onana should have been dropped a while ago. Other goalkeepers, what we've had there in reserve, should have been given chances at different times this season. And I don't think we've seen it enough. I think that's the problem he's got. Because I would turn round. If he drops Onana, I'll turn around and say, yeah, Onana's had bad games. But so's that player, and you've not dropped them. Why not?
Yeah, you've got to look at it, though. What was it, a couple of seasons ago when we played Sevilla over there and we had De Gea in that. I mean, he was making more and more errors in that final season there, more so than he'd done in his previous career, in my opinion. I mean, real shocking errors. And
didn't drop him.
I didn't drop him, and this is what I'm going to say here. You know, let's go fall back on Ruben Amorim, where if he doesn't make that right decision by bringing in another goalkeeper, whether that's Bayinde or even Heaton, if he's still there on the bench, I mean, it's a big responsibility he needs to take, and a big decision.
No,
for me, maybe he's looking at it and thinking, Bayinde, I want him out the door in the summer. I'm not going to have the biggest of transfer budgets, and Anna still might be my number 1 goalkeeper next year. So I've just got to keep faith with him.
No, I think Paul Scholes has got it right. He just doesn't believe in lots of these players, doesn't believe in what's going on. Just doesn't believe, and he's just sticking with it and saying, right, it is what it is. Whatever happens, happens. And it's down to these players. These players, it is down to them to turn it round. Some of them just aren't good enough, and Amorim's going to deal with it. So whatever happens, this is the impression, listening to Paul Scholes and also looking at Ruben Amorim. Look, this is the way it is. This is the way it is. Nothing I can do. I can change that. I can drop that player. It's not going to make any difference if I bring someone else in, because there's other players on the pitch what just aren't good enough. But what can I do? The squad's poor. That's what he's looking at, Amorim, as if to say, right, I'll just carry on. There's nothing I can do here. As good as I am as a manager, as good as I believe I'm a great manager, or not a great manager, a good manager, and I can sort out a football team, I can't sort this out, so just leave it. That's the impression I get from Ruben Amorim. And listening to Paul Scholes, like I say, it was a great post-match analysis, and I think he's on it, Paul Scholes. He just knows, get to the end of the season, And if we get to a cup final and win it, my God, what an achievement. What an achievement that will be if we do that.
Back into the chat, Danny, thanks for your super chat, mate. Assuming it's already been said, but Onana is a disgrace. It's definitely time to go before he does more damage.
Listen, I don't like calling out players, but I did say a while ago, enough's enough. And people should sort of like get their opinions out there and shouldn't hide them. And Onana is not good enough. I gave him this year. I gave him a pass last year. And I said he's got to improve, and he's not improving. And this is Manchester United I'm talking about. He's not good enough for Manchester United. Okay, we don't have goalkeepers like this for long. When we get a bad goalkeeper, they're got rid of pretty early. Well, I think 2 years for any goalkeeper at Manchester United who hasn't got the confidence of his own teammates, because I'm sure, especially after last night, they haven't got confidence in him at all. The manager hasn't, the fans haven't. He's not going to succeed. He's now become a joke. Matic got him at it, made him look a fool. And last night's performance, for me, that's the end. That's the end.
We was obviously talking about Højlund and Onana. Do you think really one of the problems there is in that squad is because there's actually not competition for places in goal and in the centre-forward area? Or do you think that's just an excuse?
No, there's competition for places, but you also have to look
in the centre-forward area and in goal.
You've got to look at the owners. The owners are just looking at it from a money point of view. Yes, these youngsters coming through. Are they good enough? Right? Would you want to throw a young centre-forward out of the under-21s, under-18s, whatever it is, right? In that? No, you wouldn't.
No, but I'm saying, is this sufficient quality to challenge for them places? There's not. You know, you look at the reserve goalkeeper, Bayinde. Is he really good enough? No one really knows, you know, judging off the performances that we've seen this season. Centre-forward area, you know, is Xerxes good enough quality competition for Rasmus, or both of them for each other, to make sure when they are given that chance, they need to like step up? And
the quality is poor. We all know that, okay? Bayinde's not a top-class goalkeeper. Yeah. He's a reserve goalkeeper.
Is that affecting their performances?
No, it's not affecting the performances, okay? Onana's just not good enough. Hasn't been good enough from the moment he come in. And I gave him a pass as his first year. A player coming over from Italy, changing his lifestyle, everything, coming to Manchester. You have to give players that first year a little bit of a break and a little bit of a leeway, right? But this is 2 years now, okay? Just not good enough.
No, it's just that with me mentioning that, I think, I don't know, you're trying to think off the top of your head here, but when you're looking at the likes of De Ligt, Maguire, Yoro as well, who I think's coming on definitely in the last few weeks, looking like he's definitely got a bright future. But there's competition for places with a decent amount of level of quality in that back three.
But not up front.
Yeah, so is that then having an effect on Rasmus Højlund, because he's not got that motivation? He knows he can probably throw in a stinker 1 week and then he'll be still selected the next week. But Ruben Amorim is doing that with him. This is what I'm saying. Andre Onana is made howler after howler this season. His place doesn't look under threat. This is what it's about, building a squad with quality. So you've got that winning mentality of like, look, if I throw a stinker in this week, there's people here behind me who'll take their chance next week when I'm dropped. Look, there's not really that there in the squad.
There's nobody out there what thinks Rasmus is the quality for Manchester United as a striker. I don't. When you look at the history, okay, of strikers at Manchester United, what's needed? Rasmus, at this moment, is not a 20-goal striker, and I don't think he will be in the future.
Yeah, no, I've mentioned that. I've got doubts about him being able to score 20 goals a season in the Premier League consistently. I mean, you look out there at Gyökeres, who we've been linked with in the summer transfer window. He's a late bloomer, really, in his career when you're looking at his goal-scoring record, especially at certain levels in playing in Europe. And, you know, will Rasmus Højlund end up being like that, a bit of a late bloomer in his career? Some people mention that he needs a centre-forward in there with experience to learn off. But for me, you're being coached. Yeah, you're being coached every single day by some of the best coaches. What we're being told, you know, in world football, you know, best in class. Ruben Amorim's got his backroom team there. He's got the best out of players at Sporting Lisbon. So surely he'll be able to get the best out of then Rasmus Højlund if he really is good enough and he's got that potential.
Well, this is the problem Ruben Amorim's got. They're all his coaches. He's the manager. he believes he can take Manchester United forward 2 or 3 years, get them playing, get them challenging. Well, I'm telling you, he has to do it this summer. He has to do it this summer. Doesn't matter if Rasmus stays this summer or Garnacho. He has to get him, them two, and all the other players, and especially the players what brought in, playing football. He knows, we all know what's going on. We know who's poor, who's not putting the effort in, or who's just not good enough. And Ruben Amorim has to do it. There will be no excuses next year at all for Ruben Amorim. None at all, because he knows how poor this team is and he knows what needs to do. But the biggest culprit this summer could be Sir Jim Ratcliffe if he does not provide Ruben Amorim what he needs, because it is Ruben Amorim what will take the fall. He will take the fall when it is other people's fault for not bringing in the right players and not being able to get rid of some of the deadwood we've got. But he is under tremendous pressure. And that's why I think he doesn't believe and he's sort of not interested, because he knows what's coming, right? Big changes, and he can't do anything with this. So he's got to pick himself up for Thursday, turn it round, and then go for that Europa League. But for me, I just can't wait for the summer. But what a summer it'll be without that trophy. It will be an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, a lot of people mentioned they want an experienced striker. I mean, I've just got to the point now. I just want a striker. I don't care how old he is, who can actually put the ball in the back of the net and who can link play up. That's all I'm looking for.
You can have an experienced striker, but what about the goalie? He's letting him in. You're not going to win games.
Yeah.
That's the problem. You know, you've got Onana there. No one believes in him. Them defenders don't believe in him anymore. You can see that. You can see that the way the players were looking at him. You can see that in the players' interviews after the game. I don't know if anyone's seen players' interviews, but I've seen quite a few. And you can just see there is no belief in them players about their goalkeeper. And the manager's got no belief. You can see that as well.
Jules Solskjaer says we need to buy a striker. No, we shouldn't need to buy a striker to bring along a £70 million striker. Well, it's not Rasmus Højlund's fault of whatever the fee was agreed. That's Manchester United's own fault, undoing, like we've seen with poor transfer fees made over the last few years. But he never did he have the record there in the first place to tell anyone that he can actually go on to grab 20 goals minimum in a Premier League season. You know, it's not really there. It's all based on potential.
Look, in Rasmus's side of it, he was brought in as a young player to be developed and brought on with a striker in place, and we never got that top-class striker in place, and he's been thrust into it. And I think it's just got too much for him. He was never an out-and-out goal scorer. Okay, he got goals, but we was expecting Rasmus in 2 or 3 years' time to start developing and then take on that role. But hey, he's been thrust into it, and clearly, at this moment in time, he's just not up for it. He's not up for the fight. He's not improving. He's getting worse. He's getting worse. So, for me, this summer for Rasmus Højlund, the coaches and Ruben Amorim, they've got a job to do with him.
Yeah, I think even big decisions over the next couple of games, Newcastle and Lyon in the return leg, up front and in goal, in whether he replaces them and drops into the bench. Going into the Super Chats, Thomas, thanks for your Super Chat. We don't know how good the reserves are unless we play him. Onana is costing us. The team is improving, and Onana is still costing us. Thanks for your Super Chat, mate.
Yeah, Onana is costing us. We all know that. Everyone knows that. Every man and his dog knows that.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's costing us. I think the chances what we're creating and not being able to score is costing Manchester United. The amount of chances we've had, and we've had lots of chances in many games, and we're just not putting them away. They're just not clinical enough. And it's okay, Ruben Amorim being blasé. Oh, just put the ball in the net. That's the problem, he said. That's all you have to do. Just put the ball in the net.
Yeah, problems all over the pitch in the squad, and there's a lot to fix in the summertime. But I'd just like to thank you all for joining us today, getting involved in the chat. It's been popping off in there, to be fair.
Thank you.
With loads of different opinions on Garnacho, Hoyland, Anana, Ruben Amorim, and Paul Scholes' comments as well. We'll be back maybe later on today, because we'll be hanging around in Hotel Football. So get that notification on, just in case we do a video today. If not, we will be back tomorrow morning. So you give us... What?
There's a press conference, maybe.
Yeah, so I don't know if we're doing the video later on today or we'll be doing that tomorrow. But like I say, keep that notification on and don't forget to smash a like on today's video, and we'll see you again soon, everyone. Much love. Thank you.
Thank you very much.